Hello everyone! Welcome to the lecture Farming Culture in the Poems of Tang Dynasty. My name is Ren Xiaofei. I'm from School of Liberal Arts, Language and Culture Center, Jiangsu University. I'm a professor of intercultural communication, translation studies, and Chinese language teaching. I have been to places of all over the world, such as Pakistan, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Korea, Japan, United States, Canada, the UK, and other European countries. What impressed me most is not the metropolitan cities, such as New York City, London, but the cornfield around Iowa State University, the huge grassland between London and Manchester. Do you have the same feeling? At first, let me briefly introduce you to my university, Jiangsu University. The university lies exactly on the intersection of the Yangtze River and the Great Canal. This area is known as a land of fish and rice. You can see it from the character Su, which is composed of three parts: plants, fish, and rice. Interesting? The university has a history of 100 years, which can be traced back to 1902, Sanjiang Normal University. My university is the only university with research in all aspects of crop mechanization production, including tillage, planting, plant protection, harvesting, drying, and straw treatment. The agricultural engineering discipline cluster has 4 disciplines, including agricultural science, that are ranked top 1% in ESI. The university has trained the first PhD in agricultural machinery in China. Well, the lecture will include 3 parts: the origin and definition of farming culture, the influence of farming culture on Chinese literature, the farming culture in Tang poems from the perspective of farm tools. Now the first part, the origin and definition of farming. Farming is the first form of civilization in human history. It is a customary culture formed by human beings in long-term agricultural production, with rich and diverse food and clothing products for human survival, as well as spiritual wealth for the development of human civilization, which lays a solid material and cultural foundation for human society. It is reflected from state management to public activities, such as basic necessities of life, languages, operas, folk songs, custom, and all types of ceremonies. Now let's take a close look at the places of farming origin. The development of primitive agriculture, primitive animal husbandry, and the settlement of ancient mankind promoted the first leap of human productivity. Thus, mankind entered the stage of agrarian civilization. The agricultural civilization zone is mainly concentrated on the middle and low latitude areas, around 20 to 40 degrees north latitude, where the climate is suitable for human habitation, It is located in the middle and lower reaches of the great rivers, such as the Nile River, the India River, the Yellow River, with flat terrain, sufficient water, which is not only conducive to the development of animal husbandry, but also the birthplace of early farming civilization. From the map, we can see the 4 places of farming origin: ancient Babylon, ancient Egypt, ancient India, and ancient China, which can be traced back to 2000 BC. The setup and features of ancient Chinese farming civilization can be summed up as southern rice and northern grain, men tilling the farm and women weaving at home. In ancient Chinese farming civilization, there's one thing really important, that is the 24 solar terms, which is called the 5th invention by Chinese people. You know the 4 great inventions by Chinese people in ancient times? They are paper-making technique, art of printing, gunpowder, and compass. For the 24 solar terms is a knowledge system and social practices through which the Chinese organize their perception of astronomical laws and their relation with the natural world. Ancient Chinese divided the circle of the annual motion of the sun into 24 equal segments. Each segment is called a 节气 or solar term. Hence, the 24 segments are collectively called the 24 solar terms. These lines provide a concise version of the names of the 24 节气. You can figure out the 4 seasons here: 春 spring, 夏 summer, 秋 autumn, 冬 winter. The second part, the influence of farming culture in Chinese literature. As we all know, China has a long history of 5,000 years. The Book of Songs is the earliest general collection of poetry, which can be traced back to 1106 BC. It collects 311 poems from the beginning of the Western Zhou Dynasty to the middle of the spring and autumn period, that is from the 11th to 6th century BC. It is divided into 3 parts: 风, Ya, Song. Among them, 风 has the largest number of poems, that is 160 in total, most of which are folk songs of the Yellow River Basin. The Ya and Song are poems for noblemen and temple rituals. They are simple quatrain poems with overlapping rhymes. Next comes Elegies of the South. It is the first collection of romantic poetry in the history of Chinese literature. It is said to be a new style of poetry composed by Qu Yuan, who lived between 340 to 248 BC. Using the literary style, dialects, and rhymes from the state of Chu, lying to the south of the Yangtze River, which has a strong local flavor. The Han Yue Fu is another great collection of ancient folk songs after the Books of Songs, which created a new style of poetic realism. The narrative is unflagging and the characters are portrayed in detail with varied types of poetry. Two most famous works are The Bride of Jiao Zhongqing and Song of Mulan. 学言诗 The literature of the Wei and Jin dynasties, inherited and evolved from the Han period, the formal beauty of poetry, i.e., the techniques of rhythm, couplet, as well as the meter, were emphasized a lot. The 19 old poems were taken as a standard by later generations. It is kind of poetry that mainly focuses on the interpretation of Taoist and Buddhist philosophies. Tang poems and song lyrics from 7th to 13th century reached the pinnacle of the classical Chinese poetry. Let's take the books of songs as an example. The period from the beginning of the Zhou Dynasty to the middle of the Spring and Autumn period was the stage of transition from primitive to traditional farming in China, which was also the first peak of Chinese farming poetry. There are altogether 21 poems in the Book of Songs concerning farming, such as Home Going of the Bride, Large Rats, July, Extensive Areas of Farmland, A Good Harvest, etc. Now we'll have a close look at the poem Home Going of the Bride. Actually, the title of the Chinese version is Ge Tan, which is a kind of plant which can be used to make cloth. It goes this way. The vines outspread and trail in the midst of the vale. Their leaves grow lush and sprout. Yellow birds fly about and perch on leafy trees. Ah, how their teacher please. The vine outspread and trail in the midst of the vale. Their leaves grow lush and soil, so good to cut and boil, and make cloth coarse or fine. Who wears it likes the vine. I tell mother-in-law, soon I will go home town. I'll wash my underskirt and rise my outer skirt. My dress cleaned, I'll appear before my parents dear. It is a story about a bride who is as happy as a bird singing among the vines. She is busy collecting the plant so as to make beautiful clothes for herself, because she would go back to her hometown to visit her parents. Now let's discuss about part 3, the farming culture in Tang poems, from the perspectives of farm tools. First, let's have a general introduction to Tang poems. During the Tang Dynasty, that is around 7th to 9th century AD, the technical system of farming began to develop rapidly. The art of poetry, including the farm poems, reached the peak in ancient China. There are altogether 2,000 poems, creating 50,000 poems altogether. A big number. Now let's have a look at the video, The Development of Farming Economy in Tang Dynasty.
当时世界其他国家的人口是什么情况呢？东法兰克王国从塞纳河到莱茵河之间的人口是200-300万。直到16世纪， 地中海地区人口才5-6千万，北非人口则是300万。当时，全世界总人口2亿左右，仅唐朝就占全球总人口的1/3。但人口多，并不意味着负担重、消耗多。相反，在农业经济时代，人口就是生产力。据统计，开元天宝年间，全国的耕地达到6.6亿亩，人均超过9亩，是当今中国人均耕地的8倍。农具的变革一直影响至今，直到现在，在西安的城郊还能够找到使用屈原犁种地的习惯。有时候，现代化的农耕设备并不一定万能。屈原犁一直在地势狭小的田地上发挥着用途。1200多年前，屈原犁诞生了。与此前的犁相比，屈原犁主要有2方面的优点：一是犁铧普遍曲小而锋利，便于深耕并减少阻力；二是由过去的直圆变成现在的曲圆。
The video shows that in Tang Dynasty, China was one of the most developed countries in the world. It has a big population, accounting for 1/3 of the total population of the world. The agricultural productivity was also very huge, with the development of farm tools such as crankshaft plow, which is still used by farmers in Xi'an and other areas. According to our research, there are a lot of farm tools appeared in the Tang poems. The table shows the farm tools and their frequencies in Tang poems. V equal is the big number, followed by knife, 535 times, mill, 257, hoe and spade with the number of 143, plow, axe, plowshares, broom, roller, dustpan, etc. Here are some pictures of the farm tools in Tang Dynasty. This is crankshaft plow we mentioned before, dragon bow wheel, water power trip hammer, rolling over water wheel, shadow, stone mill, sickle. All right. Next, we'll discuss about the farming culture in Tang poems in 5 aspects: unhurried life, fresh farm food, sympathy for farmers, prosperity of farming, harmony between man and nature. First, we have hoe. In the poem, Rural Scene by River Wei. It is written by Wang Wei, a famous poet in Tang Dynasty. It goes like this. The village lit by slanting rays, the cattle trail on homeward ways. See an old man for the herd wait, leaning on stuff by wicket gate. pheasants calling wheat field with ease, silkworms sleep or sparse mulberries. Shouldery-ho, two plowmen meet, they talk long, standing on their feet. For this unhurried life long, lost in seeing home-going song. We can see the poem is about the rural scene at sunset. Two farmers meet at the entrance of the village after a day's work in the fields. Shouldery-ho, they say hello to each other, talking about their crops in an idle way. Here, the image of hoe is a good reflection of farmers' satisfaction of their life. So we'll take a look at the hoe's invention. In the Neolithic period, our ancestors had invented hoes made of stone to grow crops. After the Han Dynasty, the stone hoe made of stone is not durable, so the Han people changed the stone hoe into an iron hoe to make the durability improve greatly. So in the picture, we can see the hoe has two parts. Hoe blade is a kind of kitchen knife shape. There are also other types of hoe blade, such as long and narrow type. The second part is handle, which is a round wooden stick made of hardwood. The handle is used to support a hoe behind the blade and varies in length, ranging from 80 to 160 centimeters. The second aspect is about fresh farm food. We have an example here by Xu Hun. The swallows and wild geese flew into the hall. Farmers are busy in the fields, collecting vegetables, harvesting fruits. The trip hammer made the rice more smooth. The cook made tea more fragrant. Guests come and have wine. Stay whenever you want. In this poem, the water-powered trip hammer is mentioned for fresh food making, which is more impressive for the visiting friends. The third aspect is about sympathy for farmers. Here we have the poem by Li Shen. The title of the poem is Sympathy for Farmers. Men who plow in the fields should have enough to eat, but often feel hungry. Women who weave cloth under the window should be dressed well, but actually bury the coldness of weather. Hoping the beauties of Yan Zhao will all become ugly but virtuous, then their valueless smiles will not have the extravagance, achieving a rich country gradually. This poem is criticizing the heavy tax of farmers in ancient time. Sometimes, farmers will suffer the lackage of food and dress, even though they work hard to plow in the fields and weave cloth under the window. It may cause more people's sympathy for farmers. Actually, in Tang Dynasty, people's life were getting better with the development of farm tools. Here we have the modification of crankshaft plow. Before the Tang Dynasty, the plow was heavy, with straight shafts, which makes it hard to operate and make turns. The creation of light crankshaft plow improved a lot about its flexibility and efficiency, which was gradually promoted and became the most advanced plow tool. As far as sympathy for farmers, here we have a popular poem titled as《悯农》。锄禾日当午，汗滴禾下土。谁知盘中餐，粒粒皆辛苦。The English version is Farmers weeding at noon, sweat down the field soon. Who knows food on the tray, thanks to their toiling day? In the Chinese history, we have a tradition of cherishing food. Many family instructions also have such requirements as, in front of a meal, we should think of hard work of farmers. Even a thread may remind us that the production of these materials is difficult. Many poems in Tang Dynasty also describe the prosperity of farming. Here we have an example by Meng Jiao. 100 feet of bright mirror flows, and thousands of cold stars fly, washing the old things as colored as new clothes. Instead of the dirty earth, choosing the white and pure snow. Small edges of stones, green-colored grass. Spare strength by the snow wheel, and other machines like water-powered trip hammers. Someone wise can make all the benefits. Between the mountains and the rivers, people are discussing about the right and wrong. On the one hand, stone wheel and other machines like water-powered tree hammer are working in the fields, showing the prosperity of farming. On the other hand, the machines has spared the strength of farmers, making them enjoy chatting with each other between the mountains and rivers. We mentioned stone mill in the poem. Here is the legend of stone mill. According to the records of Shiben, the stone mill was invented by Lu Ban, who lived between 507 to 444 BC. It is said that he chiseled dense and orderly shallow grooves on two relatively hard round stones and put them together, rotating them with human or animal power, and then people could grind the rice into powder. Later, water stone mill appeared. The operation of water stone mill requires strong hydraulic power, which is the premise of the interaction between natural force and mill. With the progress of mechanical manufacturing technology, people later invented a water mill with more complex structure. One water turbine can drive several mills to rotate, which is called water rotatory mill. Last but not least is the aspect of harmony between man and nature, with example of vehicle. Here we have the poem by Du Mu, titled as Mountain Trip. Winding up the rocky path in cold mountain far, homesteads unveiled in the floating white clouds. Stop the coach to enjoy the late maple woods, frosty leaves redder than the February flowers. This poem depicts a mountain trip. With the help of a vehicle, the coach came to the natural world, enjoying the beautiful scenery with a peaceful mind. Here we have another poem about recalling an old house. 小霜凝垒寺，初日照梧桐。Early morning's frost condensate over the plow. The sun shines on the sycamore trees. The plow is lying there with frost on it, demonstrating a harmonious emotion of the poet, thinking about his last meeting with friend here. In conclusion, we have discussed farming culture in poems of Tang Dynasty from 5 aspects: unhurried life, fresh farm food, sympathy for farmers, the prosperity of farming, and harmony between man and nature. You may get more interested in China now. At present, the Chinese government takes solving the 3 rural issues as the top priority to promote the revitalization of rural areas with the strength of the whole society, and promote high quality and efficient agriculture, rural livability and industry, and farmers' prosperity. That's all for the lecture. Welcome to China.